Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back once again to another Bloodborne OST reaction. So, previously, and when I talked about the living failures, I talked just very, very briefly about Darkbeast Paarl and how, again, it's sort of one of those bosses, unfortunately, in Bloodborne that just occupies the space of just okay, because whilst I really do love like the more beast style boss fights that you have in Bloodborne from Sister from Vicar Amelia to uh, the likes of Paarl. Unfortunately, I think they're sort of slightly on the weaker side in terms of like actual boss fights for the game. Not because their move sets aren't particularly very versatile, but rather um, they're just there's something of a bit of like a balancing issue more than anything. Like they do more or somewhat less damage than they ought to be. It's somewhere there should be like almost like a fine balance. Like if you get stomped by a giant paw, it should do modern like a medium sort of like bite of damage. It feels like there's a bit of an issue with balancing, and sometimes that's more down to what your defense stats are for this, because this is meant to be an RPG game, and depending on how well you're protected, it could have a very profound impact on the game. But that's sort of not really what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We want to talk about the OST. And by the way, even though it's been a bit of a while since I last played Bloodborne, I will admit to the fact that the first time I fought Darkbeast Paarl, it was almost by accident. I almost wasn't really sure where I was walking. I didn't know exactly what I was walking into. It just it just sort of happened. In the same way that today we will be doing that sort of happening. Can I start over? Let's just check out the OST for Darkbeast, and here we go. Sorry about all that word jumble. Terror is like written all over its face. It's there is like a very strong air of tension, and that's probably like a phrase I really haven't had to use that often in these sorts of videos. It feels like you're up against something extremely unpredictable, and something that maybe even at this point, like unpredictability comes in the form of the fact that if you've got to Darkbeast Paarl, you've probably fought the blood-starved beast, and you've absolutely decimated Father Gascoigne. And you know that so much of what makes Bloodborne a compelling experience is the fact that a lot of the move sets that a lot of NPCs and a lot of enemies do have seems to be reflective of the fact about how the blood is tainting them and mutating them, making them change their behaviors and their personality. And you could almost argue very much in the case of Paarl is that it seems like, well, what is it that is shifting and changing inside him? We know what it's manifested Paarl into, but can it go even further again? So, like I said before, one of the great aspects that's almost like brilliantly woven into the actual design of the game is how it doesn't. It all comes across in multiple different. Not it, everything seems to be almost tied back to the fact that everything is molded and birthed by the blood from a move set to the way the characters just look, or the way that so because I know there's like a whole bunch of NPCs that they interact very very differently from each other, and you could arrive at like certain points of the game and they've like moved positions, and some will be like hiding around corners, some will be completely out in the open, some of whom are just sort of just by themselves, just don't really know where to go or where to move or anything like that. It's I don't know if it was just intentional, but I really do think it's fantastic that so much of like Bloodborne's design, and even though again I'm not particularly a fan of like the fight for Paarl, it is rather interesting to see that almost all everywhere you look, it all comes down to the fact that everything is not quite what it seems, and you're wondering, have we really gone too far with it? Are we going to be succumbed to frenzied and goodness knows what else is waiting for us. And with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reaction to the Darkbeast Paarl OST from Bloodborne, and I cannot wait to talk with you guys again in the next video. Since we're sort of like winding down our From Software OST retrospective, which has been going on since literally the beginning of July, it's still fantastic that we still got so much to talk about. And bye-bye for now.